All right. Happy Monday. Happy holidays to everyone out there. This is Crystal Jordan, your host for Reality Check with Rolling Out. And of course, from Crystal with Love XO here on YouTube. If you are watching, if you are tuned in today, make sure you drop those XOs in the comments because today we're going to have a conversation about relationships, but from a little bit of a different spin. So I have invited a good friend of mine. She is also the founder of CheMinistry, which is the top rated event show on Fox Soul. And CheMinistry is a relationship platform, and they have had an amazing year on Fox Soul. They have talked about different relationship topics from church hurt to rejection to trauma bonding. But tonight, we're going to talk about the conversation that was just recorded here in Atlanta, which was people feeling lonely during the holidays. And even though we know the holidays are an amazing time of year that a lot of people are looking forward to, a lot of people actually deal with a lot of depression, anxiety because they are not in a relationship during the holidays. Also, some people think they're in a relationship, and the holidays are an opportunity for them to find out that the relationship might not quite be as solid as they thought. So I'm going to bring Chanel on so we can get to the bottom of this and talk a little bit more about people feeling depression and loneliness during the holidays. Welcome, Chanel.
Well, look, welcome. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you for jumping on. First of all, congratulations on an amazing 2022 for CheMinistry and Fox Soul. How do you feel about everything now that the year is winding down?
I look back and honestly, I'm just like, are we still in 2022? I feel like we just went through 10 years. It's only been less than 12 months, but this has been an amazing year filled with tremendous blessing. And I'm very, very grateful for what we've been able to create, for what we've been able to establish in this realm of relationships and TV. And I'm excited about what's to come.
Yeah, well, again, congratulations. It was great to watch and to be able to have a bird's eye view to see the growth, over the last few years.
Mhm.
You had you have come up with topics that I feel like are amazing for the culture because there are things about relationships that people don't always talk about.
Mhm.
And I thought it was ingenious to really just confront the fact that even though the holidays are our favorite time of year, a lot of people look forward to them. A lot of people are, we see a lot of Christmas pictures and people, posting gifts and things like that. There are a lot of people that are actually struggling because they're not in a relationship and they feel depressed around that time. What was it that made you think this is something that we need to talk about? The week right here is the week of Thanksgiving. So it kind of kicks off that holiday season.
Absolutely. I was trying to create a new perspective for those of us who are still single and desiring relationship, right? It's not all bad, but what we learned last night is this is a preparatory period to really do the work and prepare ourselves for the relationships that we desire. Sometimes we do look at it as, oh my God, it's this time of year. I'm not going to get a gift. I don't have anyone to bring home, but like we learned last night, this is actually an opportunity to celebrate singleness and also do the prep work so that when the one person enters into our life, then we're ready.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want us to get into a little bit more of a personal conversation because I am recently married, but I have been single way longer than I was married. I was married early on and then single for a long period of time. So I definitely can relate to feeling some sense of I wouldn't say loneliness because I had children, so I wasn't necessarily lonely, but I definitely missed the fact that when I would see pictures and you see the Kay's jeweler and, under the Christmas tree, Mariah Carey song, I didn't have anybody to sing it to. So I can relate to kind of feeling sometimes, man, I really wish I had that, that I don't have that person in my life. And I'm sure most people can relate to that. Hello, Ebony. Thank you for joining us. Hello, Gerald. If you guys are here, make sure you put an XO in the comment so we'll know that you're there. So Chanel, I want to ask you, what is that experience been like for you?
It has been exactly what we described before transitioning into that space of healing. It's been one of those times where you're like, wow, I'm not going to get a gift. I've even been in situations where I've bought a gift and whoever I was in a situation, typically around the holidays, we talked about being in a situation, being in a situationship or being in a relationship. This is the time where you find out if you're in either or, relationship or situationship. And I have been that person who has found out that you are in a situationship. I've bought a gift and didn't get anything in return. I've even done the Valentine's Day and didn't get anything in return. As a matter of fact, I don't think I've ever gotten a Valentine's Day gift, except for maybe one time.
Okay.
My entire adult life. And so I have gone through the whole depression of, just being single and not having a significant other. But I am redefining this time of year, because the most important thing before you enter into a relationship is to tap into your purpose and to really know who you are. And I have found that when you know that and you find content in that, then it's not as bad as it is when you're looking for affirmation or validation from someone else, when you don't know who you are. So I just want to redefine this space. I do want to be in a relationship, but I also understand that God has his own timing. And then if we're really doing it the way that he desires, then we have to prepare, because he's not going to hook us up with any mess. And just like he's not going to hook us up with any mess, he's not going to connect that other person with mess. So we have to get ourselves together before entering into a healthy relationship.
Absolutely. I'm going to share a little story, because I remember after I was married for like 11 years, and I remember the Valentine's Day, the Christmas, the birthday right after that divorce was extremely difficult for me, right? Because I've been used to being with somebody for a long time. And my situation, I had discovered that my ex-husband was having an affair. So I had discovered that he was having an affair. And on Valentine's Day, when we were still together, he was talking to the woman that he was having an affair with. So that was extremely hurtful. I remember, we did go out for Valentine's Day, but it just didn't feel right. Later, I had an opportunity to look at the phone records. And I mean, I was just devastated. It was very painful. But so the next year I was definitely by myself, because I didn't date for a long time after that. And I was talking to a friend of mine, and I was just saying how, he was getting stuff for his wife, and I was trying to help him put together what he was getting. And he was like, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "I just, it's my first Valentine's Day. I don't have a Valentine." And he said, "Well, you had one last year, but that person was lying to you. And he was interested in someone else, during that time. So are you doing better this year, or were you doing better last year with the fakeness of having somebody that you had no idea was betraying you?" And it made me think about it differently. And I was like, you know what? You're right. I'm doing better this year, because even though I'm by myself, I'm not living a lie.
Absolutely.
And I think that, a lot of times we are always so focused on what we don't have that we're not focused on what we do have. For every person that's in a situationship, there's somebody on the other side that feels like they're in a real relationship with that person that is being betrayed, that's being hurt. So I think a lot of times as singles, we are very focused on what the pictures show us from other people, but we don't always think about, at least I'm not in something with the wrong person. At least
Absolutely.
I'm
There are times like, what I have taken great pleasure in is, even if I'm not in a relationship, I'm not being rejected by someone. If I'm single, I find contentment in that space. I'm not worried about if somebody's calling my phone, did they call me back? Are we going? I don't have to worry about that, especially if it's not the right person. It's peaceful, right? You can keep the anxiety, the whole anxiety of having to go through that in your head of, oh my God, does he like me? Does he not? Why ain't coming back? Look, I would rather just be single and be at peace if I had to pick. So I just take the opportunity in this season to really focus in on my purpose, focusing on growing and evolving. And when that time presents itself, then we can do that. And then I think one of the other things, the stressors that I took off of my back, was I had this whole idea of, I want to have children. Well, for me, I've gotten to an age where that probably won't happen, and I'm cool with that. Like, I have a conversation with myself and say, I am absolutely and totally okay if I don't birth my own children. I have nieces and nephews who are just like mine, and I'm content with that. And so now that we put that to bed, well, I don't have the anxiety anymore of worrying about, okay, is it going to happen? Is it not? For the next person, it may be something different. But that was my biggest thing of being single is that the time clock of,
Yeah.
oh my God, am I gonna be able to do this? But then I'm just like, you know what? I've just accepted the fact that it's not going to happen. But then you got to really ask yourself, do I really want that? And the answer, like, I think at this point in my life, I do want it, but I just think, how would I be able to balance it all?
Mm-hmm.
And then we have to find contentment with what we have been giving. I mean, God has blessed me tremendously this year. So it's like I can't even fix my mouth to begin to complain about what I don't have. We still have conversations about the husband, but I'm like, okay, God, I'm going to continue to be patient and do the work. But I've just taken, great pleasure in having a nephew that is just like mine.
Yeah.
A niece that is just like mine. When they call me and they ask me for something, I'm like, send me the link. I just take pleasure in that.
Yeah. Well, I think, God's timing is smarter than ours, and we just never know. Hi, Tiffany. Thank you guys for joining us. Hey, private person. Again, if you guys are just joining, we are having a conversation about relationships during the holidays. We know Thanksgiving is on the way. Not only do people often deal with being depressed themselves, but I have girlfriends that have told me that they actually feel anxiety about going home because family members are going to ask them, are you in a relationship? What's going on? Are you, why is it taking so long for you to get married? I never had that experience. My family wasn't like that. In fact, they'd probably be like, are you still married?
You know what? People who have that, I think, those are people who are probably being pretentious about what their lives really do look like. I remember there was a time, and I know a little bit about my story with the whole church hurt thing, and I believe that this gentleman was my husband and he was not. But that is when I had the most anxiety, because I had talked about what God was going to do. It was an erroneous belief. I made a mistake. I've accepted it. But going home and not having any intel on, well, did God do it? Because I had and I didn't do this on purpose. I've learned through that experience, but just having to maintain this, or not wanting people to know that this wasn't really happening in my life, and having to bear the shame and the pain of being wrong. And sometimes we gotta be honest with ourselves. Like, you know what I'm saying? If you're not, what, just be real with yourself, be honest with yourself, and then you don't have to worry about what someone else is saying.
Right.
I think for others, my situation is a little unique, but then there are others who are like, I don't need a man, I'm cool, or I'm dating such and such, and you really know it's a situationship, but you don't want to tell your family it's a situationship, and you're making them believe that it's a relate. I've seen this situation time and time again.
They probably already know. I was just gonna say, hey, Mimi, hey, absolute treasures. Thank you guys. Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you all for joining. Chanel from Fox Soul CheMinistry Live is in the building with me tonight, and we're just having a real candid conversation about relationships, especially when it comes time for the holidays. I don't know if everybody realizes it, but during the holidays, people are dealing with being lonely, period, even outside of relationships. Some people have no family, no friends. There's a lot of people that are feeling suicidal and depressed. So it's a really important conversation. I'm glad that you had it on a big stage on a national platform. Let's talk about the guests. Let's bring in the guests. That you had that actually kind of gave a little bit of context, especially to the relationship versus the situationship, right?
Yes.
So in my opinion, you had guys that are very, very well known for being curators of situationships, right? so you had Rich Dollars from Love and Hip Hop Atlanta, Caesar from Black Ink New York, and Anthony O'Neill, who's a best-selling author. Actually, he definitely brought a different perspective, probably a much needed perspective.
He absolutely did. I loved it, but go ahead.
Yeah. So, and then you also had Angel Love from Basketball Wives, Sky from Black Ink, and then AJ Johnson, who I feel like is a treasure, to our community, actress, life coach, physical trainer. AJ does everything. And basically, people really talked about the difference between a relationship and a situationship. And I think for me, I'm going to ask you, Chanel, what was your biggest takeaway? One of my biggest takeaways from the conversation was that men they have a total different perspective of the holiday season. We hear them complaining about someone wanting them for their money. But a lot of times what we see, there are women that are looking at men and relationships as transactional. And that's one of the things that the guys brought up. It's like, it's not necessarily I'm being, petty or being trifling by not wanting to be in a relationship, but I do have a problem if a girl wants to use me for a gift. And I think they have a point. So what was one of your biggest takeaways from the conversation?
I think what I took overall from the conversation, you got to be real with yourself. You know what it is, right? And you got to be okay with it. A lot of times we do know if we're in a situationship. That's just the reality of it. You know when you're in a situationship.
Agreed.
To be asking the right questions, and if that's what you've agreed to, and that's what you've allowed to happen the other 9-10 months, then you can't expect something different when Christmas rolls around or the following year Valentine rolls around, because you already know what time it is. So I think hearing them, but sometimes we got to hear it. You know what I'm saying? It's not good enough for us to see the red flags or see the signs. We got to like really see it or hear it. And they just kind of really just articulate it in a way of what we already knew, but it was just like different hearing them say what it really was. Because even Cece said, if it's a situationship, it's about sex. And if it's a relationship, then I'm going to treat you like my queen. So to hear him say that, it's like, damn.
I think
categorize us like that.
It was like a moment where every woman in the audience took a breath. And I think it's what you were talking about. He said, if this is a situationship, and you said, so what do you need from a woman in a situationship? He said, nothing but sex. That's it. And the women were like, oh,
it's cringy. It's cringy.
But I mean, I feel like, for me, what I'm trying to do, here on this platform is really just, this is more for women. I want women we got to be accountable. I know I can remember being in I'm not going to say situationships, but being in a situation where I liked somebody. It was obvious they didn't like me the same way. And I was hopeful, right? And I feel like at the core of that is a fear that what you want won't find you, right? So I can remember, and I was extremely afraid to date after going through a divorce, but I would see a guy, work with a guy, which I feel like is the most awful thing to do, in my opinion, because it always led to me being around the person, liking them a lot, them not liking me back the same way, them liking me and wanting to work with me, but not wanting to be in a relationship with me, and me kind of fantasizing about it more than it should have been. And I'm just scary. So I'm not going to do I'm not going to proposition a guy or anything like that. But I do know that I wasted a lot of time having a lot of thoughts and mental, well, does he like me? And I feel like if it's anything less than yes, it's just no.
No, absolutely.
So if he's not trying, if he's not moving towards it, and his actions aren't aligning with words that are moving towards it, then it's no. But it's not no in a bad way, because I've heard from so many of those guys later, like, I really liked you. I just knew I didn't want what you wanted right then. I just knew that we were not on the same page. And it's better for them to not engage than to engage and hurt. You know what I mean? So I think as women, we just have to stop living in a fantasy world,
right?
And just
not settle. Like, don't settle for the crumbs or settle for what you can get. Most times in those situations, wow, he's not treating me like, I would like to be treated in a relationship. He's not calling me as much. We're not going out on dates. These things are not happening, but then you'll get the late night phone call, or you'll get the random call and be like, hey, you want to hang out? But that's only because whoever he really wanted to hang out with wasn't available.
Right.
And within ourselves. And when I look back on all the situations that didn't work out, and I ask myself, was that a situationship? Because now I'm sober-minded, right?
Right.
Sober-minded, was that a situationship or was it a relationship? And I have to be very honest that it was a situationship, and I knew it, but I was trying to make it something that it was not, right? Or you think, well, I can change him, or I'm gonna, treat him this way, and he's gonna see me differently, or I'm gonna be, we try to be the cool chick and not complain, or kind of let things be what it's going to be, and then you end up getting hurt even more, because now those are the moments when you're teaching a man how to treat you. So if you never say anything, then he's going to think it's okay to treat you that way.
Yeah.
Then just say up front, okay, these are my standards, these are my values, and this is what I want. And if you're not able to give those things to me, then it may not be a good fit, because we don't want to be by ourselves and we don't want to wait. And I understand the wait. The wait is rough. I get it.
The wait is rough. I mean, the wait is rough for everybody. It doesn't mean just because it irritates me that people are like, oh, well, Crystal, you're married. And I'm like, I just got married. Crystal was single a long time. Y'all had to get all in my business to wake me up. But something that Tiffany just said, I want to ask you, Chanel, and I also want to ask the chat to respond to this, because Tiffany says a lot of women have too many stipulations and some of them may not be that important. I'm going to say, for me, I'm going to speak for myself, and then I want you to respond, Chanel. When I was initially dating, before I really understood what in the world was going on, because I kind of feel like I started dating in my 30s, which is really weird because I got married early. So I didn't really know how to date. So when I started dating, I was focused on things that were not important. First, height, looks, build, that stuff, even finances. And because as we know, finances can go up and down.
Absolutely.
And so I initially was attracted to the way they looked. And then it was like, what do they do? And I realized later on, as I started to date a lot of guys, I started dating a lot of guys here in Atlanta. A lot of them were very well off, had what it looked like on paper was, the great package, right? But what I learned is a lot of them didn't have the integrity that I really needed and that I respected, because for me, I'm not going to respect a man that I don't feel like has integrity. It's real easy for me to not be respectful. And I'm not saying a bad mouth, but I will just definitely like dismiss, him if I feel like he's not somebody that I could respect first. So I will say, I know I was in my singleness. A lot of it was because of myself. A lot of it was I wasn't looking for the right things. And then I also wasn't 100% comfortable with just Crystal. So I was showing up as a representative, and I didn't want people to really get close to me because I didn't want to get hurt. So I had this wall up, this exterior that looked picture perfect, but the reality was people don't want that picture perfect representative. They want the real you. So I'm able to say I was the reason that I was single for as long as I was. Because when I took that wall down, I tried to take it down, I'm still removing bricks. But I was focused on the things that weren't necessarily as important. A guy that is very well off, looks a certain way, has this. However, he's not concerned about my children, or he's not concerned about, Crystal. He's concerned about showing up with enchanted PR and looking a certain way. And that's not the type of man that I wanted. So I do believe that a lot of times there's amazing men around us. They're just we're not appreciating those qualities that would make a good husband. We are actually appreciating qualities in men that lead to situationships.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think for me, my story is completely opposite than yours, in that I would connect with men and become very clingy because I wasn't happy with myself. I wasn't happy where I was in life. I wasn't happy with what I had achieved up to that particular point. And as a result, I would connect with what we consider high value men and look for affirmation and validation and live my life vicariously through what they did. Now, in this season in my life, because I'm still single, but I'm seeing that I'm so much more confident in who I am. I'm content and where I am in my life and what I'm doing. I'm in purpose. I'm not looking for validation through another person. And I just have fun with myself. Do I get lonely from time to time, maybe for about 5 seconds, because I'm so busy doing purpose and I don't have time to sit and dwell on, wow, I'm single, I don't have a man. I remember this wasn't just that long ago. I had a gentleman that we were going out, hanging out, and I decided within myself, without even really having a conversation with them, that, you know what, this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing. And now I have to communicate with him that this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. And I didn't want to do it because he was very nice to me. And so I texted first. And I was like,
Mm.
because this is why I don't do the casual dating, because
Yeah.
when you get ready to separate, it's always difficult because the other person may have a different expectation too. Like, I really like her. And I think in this season, I'm finding that men actually like me. And that is because I'm so into what I'm doing. Like, I don't have time to check in and see what they're doing. And
Right.
they come more because I'm so busy. And so the guy, he texted me and said, hey, can I talk to you when your day is over? And I'm like, sure. And he called me. He said, I really think I deserved a phone call and for you to communicate that to me directly. You didn't give me a chance to voice my opinion. Now, I have to add, this is a guy that I dated about 4 or 5 years ago, and it didn't work out in my favor. Okay. And so in this season, it's like, I'm like, now I know this guy. I know you, sir. And you have never done this before. And so I'm listening. And so I said, I didn't really want to communicate it, but it's something that I had to do because in this season, I am believing God that he's going to connect me with the right person. But in order to do that, I have to have that space free and clear. And when he gives me the go ahead, if it's you, if it's somebody else, then I'm going to move on that. But when I got off the phone, I was so emotional by like, oh my God, I think I found a suitor. And I actually kind of, and I cried, but I cried for like 2 minutes because my phone started ringing and people was talking to me about my business and about my show. And I forgot all about what I was going through. And I was like, damn, I didn't realize I was emotional. And then I had to snap out of it and get back to business. And when I thought about it later on today, I said, I didn't have time to sit and soak in my emotions because it was so much going on that it was like it consumed me to the point that it just went to the back of my head and I had to get back to it. I didn't have time.
Yeah.
So that's what I say, when you operating in purpose, you don't have time to sit and be sad because your time is going to be so consumed with what you're doing. You know what I'm saying, with that particular purpose. So I just thought that was I was like, wow, God, and then I think, sometimes he hides us. And I noticed that because now when I go out, I get phone numbers. Not that I want them, but this has not happened, y'all, since I was young, like over 20 plus years. And I'm like, God has taken up the cover off. I feel it because people are approaching me, men are approaching me, and this has not happened in years. The weirdest, I was like, maybe it's not who I want, but they see me. And I have to say that I have felt invisible for so many years. But I think in this season, God is trusting me that I'm going to make better decisions as to who I select. Right? It's not that everybody's going to be the one.
Yeah.
Just, I'm in that season where I'm looking at the beast. I can't communicate with a pig. I can't communicate with a monkey. Right. So God is preparing whoever that man is, and he's preparing me in that season, in this season. So it's exciting to kind of see it spiritually, like, wow.
Yeah. I would suggest to you, Chanel, that just from knowing you for the last few years, I don't necessarily, and this is just my opinion, I tell people, I interview people. I've been interviewing folks on relationships for a long time. I don't have a degree, but I do have an opinion that I feel like is a somewhat educated opinion from talking to people. But I don't think that it was that God hid you. I think that you are finding yourself. Yes. And when we find ourselves and we start to value and appreciate ourselves, then we become visible to others that see us as well. Because what's interesting is that whenever we're feeling insecure, and most of us do, I feel like everybody does at some point and throughout some area. But when you start to move past that, right? And a lot of times we become more confident when we're in our purpose, right? When we're doing what God has for us to do, then we start to stand up. It's almost like we're doing like this, and then we start to stand up, and then other people are like, oh, so it's not that you were hidden. It's just that for a while, for whatever reason, you weren't appreciating yourself. And so now you're on this new journey, and it's making you more attractive to other people. And so, because you don't look any different, it's what's inside that's radiating out. So I think that's, and that's as simple as that. I've experienced things in a different way, because when I was dating before, I don't know, I was just seeing negative in everybody else. And it was because that was what was coming from me, right? Because I was so hurt, and I was projecting that. And then when I stopped, when I was like, Crystal, when I started to heal, I started realizing that I was scaring people off with my own issues, right? So it always is us. It's always us. I
Mhm.
think God just kind of allows us to get where we're going when we're open and we're ready for the lesson.
Right.
I do want to ask Tiffany asked this, and I'm going to ask you and say I've done this, so I do think that it could be the case. It may not be with Chanel,
Mhm.
but Tiffany says if Chanel wants a man, would she have time for him? If she wants a child, does she have time? If she burying herself in work and praying for that man yet has no time? I will say I didn't have time, and I was masking my emotions in work because work felt good, because work is a relationship that automatically gives back. I can sow into work and work will harvest, right? It
Mhm.
doesn't necessarily sow into me, but I will see a return on my investment.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
felt like with relationships, there was no
Mhm.
guarantee of a return on my relationship. So it was a safe place for me to grow. And as my career was, doing what it did, it did give me a level of confidence that I think was necessary. But in order for me to get to the place that I was now, I did have to make space in my life.
You know what? For me, no. I mean, definitely, I'm very intentional about everything that I do. So
Mhm,
if there was someone to come into my life, I'm going to be very intentional about giving him the time that he needs, right?
mhm,
Men were not approaching me, guys. I'm just going to keep it real. Men were not approaching me. I was not meeting anyone. I
mhm.
literally could go a year and not meet one person that I was attracted to, you know what
Okay.
I'm saying, that was attracted to me. You know,
Mhm.
you always run into somebody, but you may not be attracted to them.
Right.
So I wasn't attracting men that I was attracted to. You know,
Mhm.
and I don't think I'm difficult, but you know, everybody, you have what you like and standards. And
What is what you like? Tell us what is your list? What is on your list, Chanel?
love an intelligent, articulate man.
Okay.
That is important. Ambition is important. Purpose is important. You have to have a vision for yourself. If you don't, you cannot talk to me. I'm going to get on your nerves because I'm a visionary. I'm
Mhm.
always working on my purpose. So I always believe that when I connect with the right person, I'm going to connect with someone who is purpose driven. We may not necessarily be doing the same things, but we'll have similar goals, similar
Mhm.
things, commonalities, you
Yeah.
know. So those are important. But I love a well spoken man. If you want to get my attention, be intelligent, be smart. I'm
Mhm.
listening. You know,
Mhm.
it's nothing like a man who knows. I love that.
Mhm.
Don't come to me talking crazy. Don't come to me with slang. Speak like you got some sense about yourself. I love
Yeah.
that. I love that.
Well, you got a great one on the panel last night, Chanel. Anthony O'Neill. Let's talk about
Yes. I
his
never met a man like him.
well, you know what? I've met some, and I think that was also a good point last night because he is well, he acknowledged that he's in a place he's more mature now, so he wasn't always like this.
Right.
But I
Mhm.
think it's important that women realize there are great men out there. You know, the narrative that we often hear is not true. And when
Mhm.
he said that he is dating intentionally to marry,
Mhm.
and that he does not want to date multiple women,
Right.
the audience went crazy.
Yes. That's what we're looking for, but we can't find them.
But we can't, you know what? We can find them off times because I ain't gonna lie, I had a lot of guys tell me that. I don't know if they were telling
Really?
the truth because I probably didn't like them, but
Mhm.
some of them I did not like, right?
Okay.
So I remember specifically because a lot of times guys don't like if you're dating other people, right?
Okay.
I remember this guy was like, I only want to date you. And I was just sitting there like, okay, he had a 9 to 5 job. He wanted a wife. I was not really sure I wanted to be his wife. I
Mhm.
didn't think I wanted to be anybody's wife again at that point. But I remember being turned off by it because I felt like he was trying to lock me down. When the reality was he was ready. I just wasn't, and he
You didn't
wasn't
like him.
he wasn't one for me.
Right.
But I can't. So then I would say later, well, I can't find a good man. No, I found a lot of good men. I just didn't like them at that time. You know what I mean? So
Compatibility is important. Anybody who say it's not is
yeah,
wrong.
no, I agree
You
with
have to have the chemistry is just that the energy that you get when you first meet, you know, that can wane, that can
you.
go,
Yeah,
but you have to have compatibility because if not, it's just gonna be a dud, you know?
yeah,
And then you can sit and try and force fit it and make it work. It's not going to work. And the moment you meet someone that you really like, it's going to be a problem with you and that other person because you're going to walk away and you're going to hurt that person. That's one of the reasons why I don't do the casual dating. Is I could go out, you know, if I just want to go out on a date, but I want to go out with someone. I want to be intentional about it. Like I said before, if you see me out with a man, just know I like him.
Yeah.
You know, if you know he's not just my homeboy, because that's only, you might see me out with a man, but it might be like a homeboy / brother type deal. Right. We have those established boundaries.
Right.
But if you see me out on a date, just know Chanel likes him. That's not out.
Yeah. Well, I will tell you this. I did not, when my first date with my husband, I didn't really like him that much.
He's so attractive. What didn't you like about him?
He wasn't my physical type. So, and he knows, we joke about this. I'm sure I might not have been his physical type either, but my husband's very fair skinned. I wasn't really into fair skinned guys. I had presented God with this picture of a dark skinned muscular man that was 6'3", and God did not send that to me. But so I wasn't. He asked me out. I wasn't taking him seriously at all. But I gave him a chance. We went out, and I didn't think he was unattractive. He just wasn't what I usually look for, right? Or what I'm usually attracted to. But when I gave it a chance and I got to know him, it is the most amazing experience. I fall more in love with him every day. But if I hadn't, the first date, he said I had an attitude. I probably did. I wasn't really open. You know what I mean? And then time went on, and I started watching. And my mother always said, listen to what a man says. And if he says something and he doesn't do it, then I'm done. Like, it was one and done. But I can say of all the men I've ever dated, he is the only person that has been consistent from the first day he picked me up. I didn't like him so much. I was asleep still. He showed up for the date. I was asleep.
What?
I wasn't awake because I didn't really think I wasn't really serious. You know what I mean? But he showed up. He's a military guy. Another thing, Chanel, he was a military ex-vet that had retired. Mm-hmm. So even though he is very good with business, I respect how he's got a good business mind and knows how to make money. But he was at a point in his life where he's not on a chase anymore. And so what he said is, I've already accomplished my dreams. I've made it. I had the military career that I dreamed of, and I've retired, and now I want to sow into you. And I wasn't. So a lot of times I had the same narrative, like, he has to be ambitious. He has to be out. And it wasn't that he wasn't ambitious. He just wasn't chasing that anymore because he's at a different place in his life. Mm-hmm. And so what he said is, I want to be able to help you. I want to be able to, and that is not what I thought I wanted, but it's what I needed. And I think we all have to kind of be open to that. I want to ask, can you ask Chanel if she wants somebody in the industry? Does that matter to her? Does she worry about how others would view her if she wasn't with view her with said guy? So do you want to date somebody that's like in your same industry?
Not necessarily, but I do want to date someone who is influential in his own right. And that doesn't necessarily mean industry. It could be ministry. You know, I've been attracted to a pastor, a gentleman who I believe was my husband, and I was wrong. He was a pastor. Mm-hmm. So, but just someone who is influential in their own right. When I was young, I dated athletes. I'll be very honest. I've outgrown that. You know, I'm good on that. Yeah. So just as long as he knows who he is and he knows his purpose and he's operating in that, you know, I'm not really particular on what exactly it is that he's doing. I don't know, like, with the type of work that we do, you do want someone who's confident. Yes. And you know what I'm saying? Confident in who they are.
Absolutely.
You intermingle with so many different people. You don't want someone in the corner who's criticizing your every move
or insecure because you're around men that are men.
Yeah. Right. And then my issue is that I'm real big on not settling, which is how I got to be the age that I am and still single, because I never want to just connect with someone who I don't have compatibility with. And then you do what I do and you walk in a room and you're like, dang, you know what I'm saying? You connect, because I have to talk to people. You talk to people, you get to know them, and you're like, wow, I settled. I should have waited. Yeah. I never want to feel like that with my mate. Like, I should have waited. Yeah. No matter who I'm in the room with, I want to be confident and comfortable with my choice. Mm-hmm. Like, this is my man. I'm proud of him, and that's it.
Yeah.
That is one of the reasons why I'm like, no, it has to be someone who's confident, who is ambitious. That's attractive to me, who is intelligent and smart. From a physicality standpoint, I think obviously you want someone who look good to you. I don't have the, societal has this expectation of what 6-pack, 6'3", 6'4". Not necessarily, because I'm more so attracted to the intellect. So he could be all that, and that would be just fine with me. I'm not complaining. But that is not the priority. I think the only non-negotiable in regards to physicality, he got to be over 6'2". I'm 6'1". I'm not walking in the room with somebody. Not happening. I'm uncomfortable. I'm self-conscious. You know, so I'm not doing that.
Well, there are some. I remember going to a dating matchmaker, and I'm 5'2", so I'm not that
so
tall.
Good. So you got a whole pool of men that are open to you.
No, I wanted to 6. I told the lady they had to be 6'2" and up. Actually, I think I said 6'3", and she said, "Why? Why do you need all those extra inches?" That was what I thought I needed, right? So that was in my 6. I just, but that wasn't important. But God blessed me with that anyway. I'm praising for it. But praising for it. But I did realize when I started to get better and I started to realize, oh, Crystal, you messing up. It's like, you don't need to walk around here with a, tight requirement. I remember I busted one guy because I was like, you said that you're 6 foot. You're not 6 foot. Like, I was really like, because I felt like he was a liar. Anyway, but the point is, I did not need that. What was important was the inside. And then God just happened to bless my soul with an amazing outside. But I do realize that's not what I love most about my husband. It is his inside.
I got to tell you this little story because I don't want people to think I'm superficial, because I actually look, and I'm just keeping it real because that's all I know to do. I had this gentleman come to my home. I think I told the story before, but he was a cable guy, and he came and installed my security system. And this dude was like 5'6", y'all, 5'7". I told you I'm 7. I'm 7. I'm 6'1" with no shoes on. And so he was in my house, and I'm just moving in, and I'm putting things up, and we just started to have conversation, and we had chemistry. Not compatibility, because I didn't know him well enough, but we definitely had chemistry. And this guy was like 5'6", and so I walked out, and I'm tall as I don't know what. That's when I know I'm tall, when I walk beside these people. If I'm like, I don't think about, I'm tall when I'm just doing me.
Right.
Checking, even if it's a friend of mine, I'm not like, they short, but this guy, I'm checking for him. And you're like actively checking for him. And I'm like, this is not comfortable to me. Like, as much as I like his conversation, he has great energy, it's just not comfortable to me. And I invited him over a couple more times because he helped me put my chairs together and stuff like that. But then I think at some point he thought that maybe he was being misused because I just moved into my space. And so I was like, hey, can you help me with this? Or hey, can you help me put this chair together? But I think he wanted more. He never voiced it to me, but I could just tell in his action that he wanted more. He invited me to his home for dinner, and I actually did go. I entertained it. And I was like, this is not.
I think the fact that you were open to it says a lot. And I also want to say, and I say this all the time when I interview candidates on Ready to Love, men never, ever are open to what they're not attracted to.
Right.
Not ever. Now, men have, their type is more broad. They're not going to say she got to be 5'2" and da da da. They are just open to attractive. They can find, a man can find the two of us equally attractive because they're more open than women are. They don't have such narrow boxes. But if they're not attracted to you, they are not open. So I don't feel like women should be open to being with someone they're not attracted to if they don't feel comfortable. There's some women that say, I don't care about looks. I am not that woman. So I knew, even though he might not have been the shade that I was looking for, because I just was really used to dating a certain type of look, but my husband was attractive. I would not have been even open to go out with someone that I'm not attracted to, because that's important to me. I don't think that's superficial, because trust and believe, no Negro, I should not say Negro on the channel because there could be other, whatever, men period, are not open to dating women that they are not attracted to, you know, and as a woman, you don't want a man to be with you that's not attracted to you. So
Absolutely. I was gonna say I had a friend of mine. I just found out this year that we all date differently. I don't know why I didn't know that, but I had a friend who says that she's not necessarily I guess she doesn't look for an attractive man per se, but she looks to someone who is nice to her and wants to take her out and do these different things. So it's more transactional. So I'm like, you don't care what he looks like? And she was like, no. I'm like, so you're more attracted to what he does for you.
Right.
But the only thing about that is that there's no substance to the relationship, and then that's going to become common, and he's going to get tired of doing for you unless you're reciprocating and doing it back.
Or she may get a guy that, just like what Caesar said, the only thing I need from you is sex, right?
Absolutely.
So if you're a situationship, so if you're looking for a man and the only thing you want from him is money, then you should not be upset. Fair exchange is not robbery when all he wants from you is sex. So it doesn't. I feel like people like that, they deserve each other. So if you just want money and he just wants sex, then y'all need to do what y'all do and get out of the way for the rest of us that are looking for real relationships, because
absolutely
that's different. That's different. I want to ask you this, Chanel. I want to make sure for the people that are watching, and thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hey, Kierna, I want to give people something to have tangible. I believe in being solutions oriented. So with this holiday coming up, we know that Thanksgiving is Thursday. Christmas is like right around the corner after that. What are you doing? Taken from what we heard yesterday at the event, from all the different panelists and even your own experience, what will you do for the holidays to keep yourself from being in that space of feeling lonely, you know, or feeling like you're missing out because you don't have a significant other this year?
I take pleasure in what I do have. Like, my brother invited me to his home for Thanksgiving. I've never gone to his home for Thanksgiving. So I said, I'm going to do that. You know, I did something different. Then I said, you know what? After I do Thanksgiving at his house on Thursday, I'm thinking about flying up to New Jersey and spend some time with my 89-year-old grandmother. I'm just going to be all over the place, right? And I'll be right back here on Monday, ready for my show to air and do my media on Monday. But just creating new experiences and taking in the moment. One of the things I think, we go through life so much and we don't take in the moment. Like, we complain about what we don't have. And I'm so guilty of this. One of my closest girlfriends, she helps with the show, but she doesn't live here. She lives in Charlotte. So when she was here, the last show, we went up to the Battery. And we went to eat with my family who had come here for the show, but then we went to the candy shop. And in that moment, it was like a moment. She's my sister, and you know, because she's one of my closest friends, but she's also my sorority sister.
Okay.
And I was just like, you know what? Tia's here. Like, what do you have to be complaining about? Like, I typically don't get the opportunity to just walk. Me and you, we go out from time to time, but just go and walk and enjoy good girlfriend time and laugh and joke and talk. You know, we're always so busy with the hustle and the hustle. But in that moment, I was like, the weather is good. People outside, because I love being around people, even though I never go anywhere. And I just said, let me just stop and take in this moment, because I've known her since I was 18 and we used to go out all the time. So I was just like, just stop for a minute and don't look at what you don't have, but just appreciate what you do have. And I'm a firm believer, I don't even have it yet, y'all, but I'm a firm believer that when you do that, then what you want, it will show. It will show up. I can feel it in my spirit. I know it's coming. For the first time in my life, my adult life, I have found a level of contentment in where God has me. I just know. I have a reason to. I ain't making nothing up. You know, some people just make you like, I don't really buy into it. No, really. He has just shown out just that good. And I'm like, you know what, God, we good. You know?
No, that's a great thing. And that's what I wanted to share with people. I've done, you know, what was difficult for me with holidays, more so than even being single, was, you know, I went through a divorce. So that meant on some holidays, my kids would go to my ex-husband. And that was really hard, because I'm one of those people that I love the holidays. I want to have like we would do Christmas pictures. I'm real traditional. People probably think it's corny, but it's okay. That's me. So I would do the little stockings with their names on. So when they would leave to go with their dad, it was really sad for me. And it was hard, right? And so for the first few holiday seasons that they were gone, I was very depressed, and I didn't want to go. I live in Atlanta. I don't have any family here, so I didn't necessarily want to intrude on another friend's family. I just kind of would stay home, and it was a sad time. After I started to get better and realize, Crystal, you are penalizing yourself. I felt a lot of sadness because what used to be a family was definitely destroyed. So what I had to do was start giving myself an opportunity to find happiness. So I would go. I remember I went to a girlfriend's house. Her family welcomed me in, and that was a beautiful thing. And I was able to enjoy the holidays, even though it was difficult without my little ones. Another girlfriend of mine invited me to her house. Her family welcomed me in, and I started to realize that I could create my situation. If I know I'm going to be by myself, I can let somebody know, let people help you go someplace. Sometimes what you think will happen won't happen. Because I used to always think, oh, they're probably going to be wondering, why is she here? She's not a part. That wasn't what they were thinking at all. You know what I mean? So I did Friendsgiving. I did a couple times. I even, I like horses. I like riding horses. I know one year I went to the horse cabin that they have horse riding, and I went out with some other people I did not even know for Thanksgiving, and I stayed there and did that. I just found ways to gift Crystal and enjoy the moment, and that really made things a lot easier, and so, but I'm also aware that you can be in a relationship and feel lonely. You know what I mean? It's not about just being in a relationship. You have to realize that we are the script writers of our lives. And so if you know that you are in a situation, then you have the opportunity and the time to put yourself in a different situation. So for me, that was just saying, accepting an invitation to Thanksgiving, accepting an invitation to Christmas. And I remember even when I first got divorced, I didn't have anything. So somebody adopted me and my children for Christmas, which was a very embarrassing situation, but I was just going through it. And so I told them, I said, guys, we're going to do the same thing. So the next, once we got on our feet, we adopted a family for Christmas. And when you start doing things like that, it's really hard to feel sorry for yourself. When you're out enjoying family or you're giving back to other people. I think I volunteered one year for Hosea Feed the Hungry, on Thanksgiving. Just finding things to do to take your emphasis off what you don't have, to me, is the best elixir for that, because a relationship can always come. Some people are missing their parents. I know girlfriend that lost her mother. Those type of things are difficult, but you have to figure out what you need to give yourself so that you're not struggling alone. That would be my biggest suggestion for anybody that's dealing with any type of loss, or even just, like I said, being single, but just missing someone or missing that presence. Figure out, don't let yourself get into that hole. Thanksgiving is Thursday, so accept or ask, go hang out with another friend that's in the same situation. That definitely makes things, it gives you an opportunity to create a different narrative for yourself, Yeah. So Chanel, before we leave, because I know people are going to tune in, we didn't give you guys very many tips on what happens, because I want people to watch the show on Fox Soul. But I want to ask you one more thing from another takeaway from the conversation actually last night at CheMinistry for Lonely During the Holidays. Anything else that you want to kind of drive home that you got from the conversation?
You know what? It's a particular point that I didn't necessarily get from the conversation, but I did get it from a pre-interview that one of the guests did. And it just stuck with me, because this is something that's so common, but I don't know why I didn't get this. But Angel Love, she said something to the effect of, be careful about telling someone new about the men in your past, or like the experiences, because men will prey on you.
Mm-hmm.
Hear those experiences, and then they try. Sometimes it's like a setup for it to happen all over again. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you're literally showing them your vulnerabilities and your gullibilities, and then they're cunning. The men who prey, PREY, prey on you. You
Mm-hmm.
got to be careful about that. And it made me think about some of my own personal experiences, not really understanding what was happening, and then reflecting back
Mm-hmm.
on those situations. And I'm like, wow, that happened to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That really happened to me. And I can specifically pinpoint where I spoke about a previous situation of what a certain experience I had with a particular gentleman. And then that situation was like a repeat, almost identical
Mm-hmm.
what I had shared. And I said, why didn't I recognize that? I didn't even, because I'm like, people actually do that,
Yeah.
ask questions, and then figure out how to manipulate you into the same situation. That's crazy to me.
Yeah.
Like an aha moment for me.
Yeah. That is, I think, I will say this. I've heard that ironically, I kind of started to understand that the depth of it listening to Kevin Samuels. And I didn't agree with a lot of things that he said, but a lot of things he said were true. And I learned and I realized that men really do judge women by their past, right?
Mhm.
Just like we often judge men by their past. But a lot of times, the idea of sharing with one man what has happened negatively in your past
Mhm.
will color the way he sees you or what he feels like he should give you, right? So, because it's like if you've been giving out bargain prices all this time, you're not going to charge me top dollar. So no, you are used to taking less. I'm going to continue to give you that. And so you have to really decide what you want and walk that way, because they definitely, I think that probably goes both ways, men and women. We just don't have to date women, so we don't have that. um I think for me it was definitely an interesting conversation, a lot of interesting perspectives, but most of the perspectives were like what I thought. Like that's what I thought. I
Mhm.
would say the biggest thing that I would say for women watching, and even some of the guys, thank you for tuning in. You guys make sure that you like this and share this, because I know this conversation is really important for a lot of people. Um, but I would say if you're in a situationship and you don't want to be in one, this is a great time to get yourself out of it. And
Absolutely.
if you want a relationship, now, if you want a situationship, girl, go off. Do what you do. But because there's some people that are okay with that. That's what they want. So I don't want to
We
infringe.
found that with our other guest, Sky. Like, she's one of those rare, people who kind of, and like I said, think like a man almost. They treat the situation like a man would treat it. And she went about the dating process just like, okay, it's about me and he wants to be with me, but I'm dating. She named them by their signs: Taurus, Cancer, Pisces, and that's how she referred to it. But
Yeah.
I'm more of an Anthony.
Yeah.
I date with intentionality. I can only date one person at a time. I can't, how I can't possibly give the proper time and attention to really getting to know one particular person if I'm dating multiple people, because I'm busy with purpose. I don't have time. My time is valuable.
Yeah.
So if I give it to you, then I'm investing in what I would consider to be a potential partner. If I ain't saying that, then you're probably not gonna get none of my time.
No, I'm with you. I was like that. I was like, I'm very busy, and I'm not the type of chick that needs to go eat. I got food at the house.
Exactly.
So they'd be like, well, he's gonna take you out and feed you. I can feed myself. I'm good. I don't care about that. I really value my time. When you work a lot and you're trying to build something, your time is invaluable. So and then I was always like, between work and my children and my girlfriends, I'm trying to, I don't really do, I could definitely need to do better with that, is keeping in touch with my girlfriends. I'm not going to bring you in the mix and it's a waste of time when I could be doing that, giving that time to something else that I already am invested with. So I never found myself dating multiple people. I tried to, because that's what we hear, but we have to, at the end of the day, once you get to know yourself, you have to do what works for you. So I
Absolutely.
didn't waste time. If I dated somebody and I saw it wasn't working, I cut it off. But I can't date 3 and 4 different guys. First of all, I get them confused. I'm calling people by the other name. I did that a couple of times. It's just not me. So I had to stop that. But I think, women, if he's not telling you that he wants you to be his, and following that statement up with words that align with that commitment, then sis, move on. Because that's not, if you truly want someone that does. Because if we spend too much time with the fake, you will miss out on the real. And so that's what I would say. And that's the biggest thing. Like, don't spend another Christmas with somebody that's not invested in you.
Because that's frustrating. When you go out on a date and you're not really into that person, isn't it more frustrating because they're not who you want them to be?
I say yes.
That's frustrating. I'm like, I'm sitting here thinking about, wow, I wish he was so-and-so.
Yes, yes. I had been on a date sitting there thinking about the other one. And I was like, this isn't fair, because I don't want to be the person across the table from somebody thinking about somebody else. So let me give them the same courtesy. Chanel, before we leave, please let people know where they can watch on Fox Soul this upcoming conversation, so they can get the behind the scenes scoop of all the stuff we've been hinting at tonight.
Well, actually, we have 2 shows coming up. So the Restoring Broken Trust episode airs on this coming Monday, November the 28th.
Okay.
Right. And then the episode from yesterday, A Loveless Holiday, Are You in a Relationship or a Situationship, that airs on December 12th.
Okay.
So, but the audience, they can view all the previous shows by just going to YouTube and typing in Fox Soul CheMinistry, and all the previous episodes will come up.
Okay, well, you guys make sure you check that out on Monday, Restoring Broken Trust. That was a very interesting conversation as well. I definitely wanted to get you in after that. I just have to make sure I do that, because these conversations are great, and they really do speak to what people are dealing with in relationships. Thank you so much, Bad Culture TV, and everybody that's been watching tonight. I have more conversations coming up later this week. We are talking with Shawnee O'Neal and her husband. And then we are also talking with the very beautiful Carrie Hilson. We're trying to make this a great holiday week for you guys. So thank you so much for tuning in tonight. I hope you all have gotten something from this. If I don't see you again, happy holidays, and make sure that you tune in later this week for the conversations. I'll see you guys next week.
Good night.